Monday's race was incredible. And the reason why I say the word incredible, I know Martin Truex led 254 of 301 laps. We saw his car in practice and knew he was going to be hard to beat. But that track had literally 5 grooves, which is, I mean, there's only 1 or 2 left, and you're in the wall. Right? There's 1 left, actually. So out of 6 lanes of asphalt, I'm counting the apron, Mike.
Yeah, because people use it.
Out of 6 lanes of asphalt, on one side is grass and on the other is a wall, they used 5. I could not believe it.
That's interesting. You know, you were really concerned about that. In fact, there was this whole test session that was scheduled. You said that's more important than the race, to test these short track package. The racing was really good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And the
what was that?
That was a text message from a friend of mine. So I'll turn it to silent. Sorry, my bad. So we've been going there for a long time, and that racetrack actually was 1 groove for the most part, and then they started treating the racetrack with some PJ1 and stuff like that, and then they had cars running a little bit down low and a couple cars running a little bit up high, and there's kind of the middle groove was now no man's land. They haven't treated the track for the last several years because they have now proclaimed it a wet weather track, so we can't, if it does rain, it would be one of the racetracks they're willing to race at. So there must be a list somewhere of tracks that they are not willing to race at on wet weather, like Daytona, Talladega.
Sure. And
then there's a list where if it does rain, we will try to race. This is one of those. So they don't want the treatment on there because the treatment will set, the water will sit on top of that, and it'll be really ridiculously slick. There are 3 newer lanes of asphalt that were put down 15, 20 years ago, and it's very easy to see it because of the shade of it, the color of it. That is that's the groove at the bottom. So you have the apron, then you have a new layer of asphalt, and then 2 more above it, and then there are 2 old layers of asphalt up high that are really grayed out. But it has sealer on it that was put there 20 years ago, sealer, that's down on that racetrack. And the modified guys use it. And when you run in that sealer, it's sort of like PJ1. It gets hot and tacky and grippy like Coke syrup. And so like walking across a sticky floor, right? And the Cup cars would never go up there. It just was the long way around, right? But now with, for whatever reason, man, not treating the racetrack and the grip from that treatment going away, wearing away in those bottom grooves, a couple cars in the very back of the field, this was a really neat phenomenon to watch, Mike. If you were there in person, that was the only way you were going to see it.
Right.
Like 5 cars in the very, very back of the field, the last 5 positions, started running way up in that 4th groove. And I was watching that. We started talking about it on air. We're like, man, there's some guys running way up the racetrack. No one up front's doing it yet. But apparently they're finding some speed there because they keep doing it. And then 20th to 25th started doing it. And then 15th to 20th started doing it. And this was like happening every 30 laps or so.
Okay.
And finally, 5th place does it. And he runs down 4th, and 4th sees it, and 4th starts doing it, and he runs down 3rd place, and 3rd starts doing it, and he runs down 2nd place, and 2nd place starts doing it, and he runs down the leader, and then Truex is now doing it. It was such a fun thing to watch. These guys go, I'm not going to go up there until I have to. Somebody starts running me down, then I'm going to try it.
Sure.
And by the end of the race, the whole field's now running in this 4th groove in turn 3 and 4 particularly. Way up the racetrack, and you could, if you wanted to try the bottom, you could. Some guys still did, even running on the apron at times off of turn 2. So really, there were 5 lanes of asphalt getting used at this racetrack, and I would have lost the bet.
Yeah.
If we had to make a guess on how many grooves or lanes of asphalt they'd be using in the corners. I mean, I can't tell you how cool that is for New Hampshire, for that track, they've needed a boost, if you will, in terms of maintaining their sort of role in the series and maintaining their place in the schedule. All these, now that the schedule's so malleable, and that there's like, oh man, street races, oh that was great, let's do more of those. Now that and everybody's probably calling NASCAR, going, can you come here? Can you come race here? The tracks like New Hampshire, man, they got to be guarded. They got to be sure about their footing and their roots. This race this past weekend, man, makes me want to go back there next year, and I was happy to see that. That's 3. Is I'm sure maybe more, but that's 3 solid weekends.
Yeah,
between Chicago, Atlanta, and here.
And we've talked about it in recent weeks where tracks need to have an identity. They need to have that one little special thing. And wow, it's so exciting to hear how excited you are about it. And I also would say is that I can watch a broadcast and I can tell how into it you are. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there's weeks where you are evidently not into it. But when your octaves go into Burton's, then it's called the Burton zone there. And you were in Burton zone pretty much that whole time.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. Burton's dominant at New Hampshire. The fun thing for our booth is we all have sort of a specialty or an expertise, I guess. And so at certain tracks, man, one of us is going to play a bigger role. And this past weekend was kind of Burton's track, right?
That was his track.
And you kind of lay back and listen to him and let him tell you about why he was so good there and what the drivers are dealing with. And I know what he's thinking and saying, but coming from him, it carries a lot of weight due to his success there. And so he did a really, really good job of explaining what's challenging about New Hampshire. At the tracks where strategy's a big factor, particularly road courses and so forth, we lean into Steve and let him have the floor, let him speak, have a little more room to move. You could probably see some of that for me happening at Atlanta a couple weeks ago. We talked about that short track test. So what is that? We mentioned it last week on the show, and I joked a little bit about how the future of short track racing is on the shoulders of these testers, the drivers that are going to be doing this test. The test was supposed to be to Monday and today, but with the weather, they decided to change it to Richmond, and it would be rescheduled. I forget what day it is, but now I went and called. I got on with Jeff Burton's advice. I called each one of these drivers and said, "Hey, man, you still going to do this test?" Most of them, yes. 1 or 2, no. And I told them, I was like, "Hey, y'all, I'm confident in you. I believe in you. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for NASCAR. You've been picked and chosen for a reason, and understand, it carries a lot of responsibility. You're going to a test with a totally unique agenda. You're not going there for yourself. This isn't about you. This isn't about your team. This isn't about getting your car to turn in the middle. This is about trying to get NASCAR's short track package to the next level, right? We love it at the 1.5 miles. We loved it this past weekend. But when we go to Martinsville, we don't love it, all right? When we go to Richmond, we're not in love with it. Nope. And we want to be excited about it being able to – you want to have confidence that you could take that car to any short track and it put on a hell of a show. And we don't have that right now. And so I told these guys, I was like, man, you guys really are in control of the future in terms of what this car can do at a short track. So always be thinking about that. And also it'd be good for all of those guys to get together and conversate and communicate with each other before they go. They have a test plan. They know the test plan. NASCAR's sharing that with them. NASCAR's also showing them the pieces and parts that they plan to use and try at the test. Understand what NASCAR is going to try to, what that part and piece is going to try to achieve. And when that part and piece gets bolted on your car, understand what you're trying to feel from it, what you're trying to learn from it, what NASCAR wants to know from you. And don't get competitive. Don't get out there and start looking at lap times. Don't worry about your car not doing so good or not getting off the corner well. Just try to gather the data. and always be thinking about what this means to short track racing and the next gen. And so,
were you satisfied with their response?
Oh yeah,
good.
All of them are in the perfect frame of mind. They totally understand the mission, and there'll be some new names probably dropped into this test, as a couple people can't make it for good reason. But yeah, it's a really important day. Now, the only problem that I'm concerned about is some of the changes that may be favorable, some of the parts and pieces that NASCAR has that end up doing what they hoped, right, might not be exactly what a manufacturer wants for their specific car, right? If they feel like, hey man, we really are we feel like we got an advantage, and this part and piece takes that away, that's when it gets a little bit political, right? Mm-hmm. And the drivers need to try their hardest to not listen to that noise. And I know their manufacturers are going to be in their ear going, hey, man, we really don't want to have to change this or that about our car. So we don't love the idea of having this piece changed. Right. If that's something that they end up liking. It's so interesting to me. It's a soap opera. It's a drama show.
Sure. That's why you test also. Yeah. That's why you test. Do you think that the crew chiefs will be on board with this, importance and priority? Like drivers, I can see you guys getting together. Crew chiefs are the ones that get competitive.
Oh, yeah. Drivers get competitive too.
No, I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying is that.
I know. That's going to be what makes or breaks the test, right? Is that everybody goes there with the right attitude and agenda, trying to just fix the short track package. They're not trying to find speed, trying to fix their cars. NASCAR is always really good, too, when they go to these tests. They may say, and they've done this before, we know y'all want to try some things on your own. Here is a 2-hour window where you guys can, mingle about and play. Just to get it out of your damn system, right? You've bought this XYZ shock for whatever front-end package you want to try. Go ahead. And then come back to us in an hour or two, and we're going to start working on our stuff and get back on the agenda and the test plans. So, man, I know that, that's interesting to me. I hope it goes well. I can't wait to hear the feedback from it and what the drivers liked and didn't like. One of the parts that I'm hearing about that's really interesting is a new splitter that creates lift. And so, basically, it's going to create lift for the lead car, taking away downforce and taking away grip. What may happen or should happen in theory is that if you're following a car with that splitter, the lift issue goes away. Right. And so it only
applies to the lead car.
Yeah, it's almost you've disadvantaged the lead car. That's the idea. And if you're following, it should not affect your cars badly, giving you the opportunity to, hassle that car in front and pass. Maybe.
Very interesting.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.